Hey everyone, it's Voltage Future here, and this is the Empress Effects Zoia. Now this is one of those pedals that has been on my wishlist for quite a long time because it's a very interesting pedal, but so far it was always just a little bit out of reach, until we got some pretty good sales on the Voltage Modular micro bundle, so I really have you to thank for this very nice little pedal here. Also an important note is that this is actually a second-hand pedal, so that saved a few more bucks, which made it a little bit of an easier purchase. Because Zoia is not all that cheap. But at the same time, as we talk a little bit about it, you will see that it can fill in a lot of roles. So it's actually, value-wise, a very interesting pedal. Now, just to set some expectations here, I'm not going to cover everything this pedal does and can do, because it's simply too much to put into one singular video. I will just discuss the basic workflow, my findings, we'll go through some sounds, and I will probably follow it up with some more videos because I think this pedal has a lot to offer, and once we start to dig in a little bit we can get some very cool things out of it. I'm somewhat convinced that with some patience you can actually kind of replace a pedal board with just this pedal. Obviously not the same hands-on experience, but I'm pretty sure you can get a lot of sounds out of this. And you can very easily switch between them, which on a pedal board is obviously more work because you need to change more controls. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So what do we have going on today? We have a guitar, which is my lovely ESP LTD F105. Totally beaten up old thing, but I kind of like it, and it works. This runs straight into the Zoia, out of the Zoia in stereo into neural DSP. This is the Dark Class, which is a bass amp, but I don't care. Without Zoia, and with Zoia. So this is a nice little delay patch I built probably on my first day of having this pedal, because it's a lot of people say it's a very complex pedal, and I can kind of get into that, but actually setting things up isn't all that hard, and that's where I want to start our little exploration of Zoia, is how do we use this pedal. For this we need to go to a empty patch, so we'll go to the patch I handily named empty, and there we go, empty patch. First thing you'll notice is when you have an empty patch, no sound will come out. So for this you need to do one basic thing on every patch if you want to use it as an effect processor, which is what we will be looking at today. You need to actually add a way to interface. So we want an audio input, and in this case it's the left channel. We select done. And now we have a nice little blinky light that shows us that we have input. We also need an output, so we'll just say interface, output. We're actually going for stereo here, done. Now we have an output. As you might notice, we still don't get any sound out of it. For this we need to make cables, and making cables in Zoia is kind of easy. You just take the source, and while holding the source you press the destination. And there you go. We now have a left channel bypass. When you make a cable, you can also set the strength of the signal going through the cable, so you can attenuate your volume, which can be done in decibels, or if you so desire you can click the little wheel thingy and you can go to percentage, and this way you can boost or cut the signal. If you want more fine controls you can hold, it's actually very tricky with a guitar, shift and turn a knob and it will increment slightly slower, so this way you have a little bit of extra control. Spinning the wheel faster, makes the increments faster, speeding doing it slower, makes it more precise. For now, let's just stick to 100%. And if we want to connect the right channel as well, which is probably preferable, we can just hold, press right, that's it. We now have a bypass pedal. So let's introduce some effects here. Now Zoia comes with a fair amount of effects, which can be accessed in the effects section. And if you go here, you will get a bunch of options: tone control, delay with modulation, ping pong delay, overdrive, fuzz, compressor, all sorts of stuff here. Reverbs as well. So for now, let's just grab a delay with modulation. Sounds good. You get a few more settings. Let's go for tape delay. Let's say done. No. The delay won't work because it isn't wired up. So this is where you get the first little thing with Zoia, which can be a little bit annoying, but if you want to connect things into your chain, you need to rewire your chain. So for this we need to select our cable, and then we can shift and trash can, and do the same for the other channel, shift trash can, and now we can make new cables. So we connect the input to the input, and we should have a output here. Go there, and go there. It's a mono effect, so we just copy the signal, and now we have slightly overdriving the signal there. Now to change the settings of this effect, we have these blocks in between. So we have a delay time, feedback, modulation rate, modulation depth, and a mix setting. So let's lower the delay time. We can also go to BPM or hertz, milliseconds, whatever is your fancy. Let's kick in a little bit more feedback. Let's do some faster modulation. Let's way up the depth to get a little bit of a feeling of how crazy this goes. There we are. Now let's try it. Might be a bit high on the feedback, so let's lower that a little bit. And this amount of modulation is pretty crazy as well. So let's dial that down a little bit. All right. Because we're working with a stereo pedal and a mono source, we can also start to make this mono source stereo. And for this you have a few handy commands. First, let's disconnect the right. So once again, hold the source point and the destination point. Now we have the cable selected and we can delete the cable. Now we can copy this delay by pressing anywhere on the delay, doesn't matter where. Shift, copy. You want to copy it here. Done. We connect the input. Doesn't have to, it's already connected. And the output, this is where we need to have a little bit of fun. So we want to keep the left channel, remove the right channel. And here we want to remove the left channel. So now the audio output is connected to left and this one is connected to right. So we've created a stereo delay. And to show this, we will just change the modulation time between left and right. So that's some of the basic operations, is making cables, placing modules and copying them around. So that's pretty easy to do. If you want to change any of the settings, you can simply look at the settings of these effects. And if you want to change the module, you can hold Shift and press the little paper of the pencil. And we get back into the options here. So that's some of the basic operations. Now the nice thing of Zoia is it's not just an effects pedal, it also has a synthesis element built in, so you actually get modulators. So let's say we want to put an LFO on our delay time, because we can actually do that. So we need to make a new module, and for this we need the control modules. You can just grab an LFO, set the shape, so let's go to sine wave, which is the most commonly used. This is not very readable, I know. Done. Now we have an LFO. We can see the LFO light blink, and we can set the speed of the LFO, so let's put this really slow. Alright, there we go. That's our LFO, now going up and down. And we can tie this LFO to any parameter, just like making cables. You can just hold the LFO output and any input. Set the modulation strength, so let's dial this way down to not make it too obnoxious. Let's do 10%. Minus 20 dB. Let's do the same here. Cool. Now when we press the parameter, we will see they are linked, and you can see the delay time moving up and down. So if we play anything now, we should get a modulated delay time. And it's that easy to make lo-fi sounding stuff. It's very convenient to have modulators on your guitar pedal. That's kind of cool. Now, if we want to take any module out of the chain, simply select it, Shift Delete, and Shift Delete. So let's add a audio module. Let's go, oh, not an audio module, wrong. We need an effect. Let's do a little overdrive distortion. Yep, sure. Although, no, more people are probably interested in the fuzz. Let's do the fuzz. We do a fuzz. The module is selectable. I'm not quite sure what they mean. Let's go for a burly fuzz. I'm going to assume that has some low end to it. And again, simply input to input with one single output. Let's connect the output to both. There we go. We now have a fuzz module implemented into the chain. So you can hear it reacts to the volume of the guitar because I'm not touching anything here. Let's actually lower the input gain a little bit because it's a little bit sensitive right now. So let's put that to, I don't know, 10 or something. So let's try one of the other Fuzz models. Let's do the Fuzzy. Now I don't have to change any of the cables because they're still connected. It saves the gain, simply change the model. So that's quite fun. Again, it's fairly easy to set up, and if you want to change things, you absolutely can. So let's actually keep the fuzz and let's put in another effect after it. So let's delete these cables again. Let's see what else we can cram into this little space here. Can we actually... Let's go ping pong, but delay. Let's go crazy. Input there. And our outputs are here. So we have a out left, out right, left, out right. So it's fairly easy to make little chains of effects like this and add modulators, which is cool. So overall I think the effect selection is alright. It could be a bit bigger. They boast, I think, 80 effects on the website, although a lot of those are stuff like, for instance, well, the audio inputs and outputs are of course part of it. And you also get some of the more basic stuff like an inverter or a noise or whatever. So the amount of actual effects in this isn't quite as high as I would have liked. The variety is good though, and the overall quality is very good as well. And the option to chain things together and do things in parallel is actually very cool. So I think you can get quite a lot out of this, and we will explore that later on. Not in this video, but at some later time. Now, the other kind of downside is when you load a patch, you will just get this. And it's very hard to tell what the patch is actually doing. And that's a little bit of a downside. So this patch, for instance, does some envelope following, and I know this because I made this patch, which makes it a little bit easier. So here's an envelope follower. We have a slew limiter on the envelope follower. So if we check out what the envelope follower does, and this is very nice, you can actually see the audio signal at multiple points in the pedal. We can see the audio signal. I mean, you can also see how the envelope follower reacts when the slew is engaged, simply looking at the output of the slew. Which is pretty neat. You can also follow the connection, because now we have the slew output. You can see it goes to this point, which is the reverb mix amount, and it also goes to the delay mod. But you can imagine if you haven't used the patch in a while, you will no longer remember what the hell is going on. Or if you download a patch, there are many patches available, it can be hard to track what is going on in a patch. That's before even mentioning that patches can have multiple pages, so you can actually have several pages with modules going on. So it becomes quite hard to know what is happening. So powerful, fairly easy to set things up, with the drawback of it being kind of hard to see what is going on after a while, or if you take someone else's patch. Another thing which is a little bit annoying is the amount of on-pedal controls. So you do have this little switch here. On this side, this can be freely assigned. The switch here allows you to move to the next effect. And if you have an effect, you can... it's a bit annoying, you can't go back. So let's say, I don't know, this, you can select it with the other pedal. This means that if you were to build a set list, you could actually put all the effects in a specific order, and whenever you need it, you just press the scroll, select, and you will have the next effect in your chain. You can also do that through MIDI, because this pedal does have MIDI in and MIDI out. So that's an option as well, which makes it pretty cool as a kind of pedal board in the box kind of thing, as you can change parameters using MIDI. You can also sync a lot of things to a setup live, which is very cool. But again, downside being that you can only go forwards. So if you mess up, you just can't go back, which is a little bit of a pain. Another downside is there's only 64 presets. There are no folders or anything, which is very annoying, because once you reach that limit, you actually need to start deleting things and moving things off the modules. It would have been very cool if there was like a playlist or a folder structure, so you could go to another preset folder. Unfortunately, there's not, which I think is really something that limits the potential of this pedal, because I could totally see someone spending a bit of time making a bunch of very cool presets, then putting them into song structure so you can switch between songs and go through all the different effects. And this is one of those examples where this is assigned. As you can see, when I press the switch, the lights blink, but without actually backtracking what is going on. So here we have the switch. If we press it, it goes up. Okay, cool. That goes here to a slew limiter to make sure it doesn't switch instantly. So we should see a reduction signal here. It goes from here to this point, and this is the VCA level control. So we have a VCA here. Okay, that's interesting. Which controls audio output pedal right channel. Okay, so we need to be in stereo, and this way you need to move through everything to find out what is going on, which can be very annoying. Also important to note that a lot of patches do not really have documentation of any kind. So if you want to know what they do, you are probably stuck in going either through them to figure out what is going on, or just hoping that the function is so obvious that it just works. Another thing to note is that there is no fixed signal flow. You can move any signal from anywhere in the pedal board to anywhere, which means you can't just assume that the signal goes from left to right, up to down, etc. The signal can actually move all over the place. Here you have a second page, for example. So yeah, finding out what is going on is, I think, the tricky thing. Not using the pedal, not patching the pedal, but finding out what was patched at some point. Is there a way this could be improved on the pedal? I don't believe so. I don't think it's possible due to the interface constraints of this pedal to fix that issue. So that's something you will simply have to live with. One thing I could imagine is possible is if Empress Effects had like a application where you could load a patch and it would just show the patch in a more graphical UI, so you could more quickly see what is what and what goes where. At the same time, they are a very small company and I don't think it would be worth their time. Could be a community project, who knows. I'm not tech savvy enough, maybe someone is, and maybe something can be worked out for that. Moving back to our empty patch for a second, I want to go through a few of the reverb sounds, because I know reverb is a big deal for a lot of people buying pedals. I think distortion is also something people are very divided on, but reverb more so. So I just want to quickly go through the reverbs to give you a little bit of an idea of what is going on there. And that's probably where we will end this specific video. So let's throw in the reverbs. There we go. And let's hook up our first reverb. Left, left, right, right. Here we go. Plate reverb. Let's try the max decay time for a second. Oh, it's actually infinite. Let's not do infinite. Let's do 487 seconds. I think that should be plenty big for most people. Alright, next reverb. So that's a little bit annoying because you need to take out all the different connections. This one, and we connect this one, and now we have a, yep, correct, hall reverb. Crank it up a little bit. We also have a low EQ here, always handy, so you can roll up the lows to prevent muddiness. And we have a high pass filter, I think, mix control outputs. Actually, we have two inputs, so maybe we should connect both inputs. There we go. And a long time. Let's lower the EQ on the low frequencies a little bit. I would say that's a sufficient amount of reverb. Let's remove the connections again. Let's move on to the next algorithm. There we go. Enough connected. Let's go to the room reverb. Also stereo in, stereo out. Let's crank up the time a little bit, 10 seconds again, which is closer to the end of this one. I would say that's also sufficiently reverby. Last reverb, kind of feel like a Ben Jordan knockoff Let's demo Reverbs thing, but here we are. Last reverb, Ghost Reverb. Single input, single output. We get decay/feedback. We have a modulation, apparently, resonance, and a mix. Let's see what's going on here. Feels like the sort of thing that gets a little bit in that rave deluxe territory. It's not quite an octave up reverb, but it definitely has a pitch vibe to it. So let's play around with that a little bit. Let's lean into it a little bit more. Pretty spooky. So that's the reverbs. You also get a reverb light, which is a little bit of a easier algorithm, which can be useful when you don't need the most detailed reverbs, but you want to have a reverb somewhere in your effects chain and build off that. That's a very easy to use bonus reverb. Good to keep the CPU count down a little bit, because as you can see, putting in 4 reverbs is definitely pushing the CPU limit a little bit. In general, I haven't really found it to be an issue so far, but my patch it hasn't been too complicated, so we'll see if we run into issues with that. So, whoa, we're already at 40 minutes, that's awesome. And this is the short video about Zoia. Imagine what the long video will be like. So, just to summarize once again, very cool effects, very easy to patch, and that's before even going into parallel and feedback routing, which is also a thing. Easy to patch, cool effects. Downside being it's not easy to read. It's not the easiest to change parameters, because every time you want to change parameter, you either, well, I guess you learn where they are, but in general you just have to click around a little bit. One way to resolve this is to always have a page where you just link the most important parameters, but still a little bit of a hassle to only have one knob to control things. And I think that's about the length we should make this first foray into Zoia. If you have any Zoia questions or anything you want to see from Zoia, I would highly recommend you leave a little comment below, and I will see if I can work out how to do whatever you are asking with the Zoia. That's it for today, and I will see you in another video.